Today I'll tell you the story of a dog named Bruno. It's a story I heard from a friend while we were out for a drink, and without wasting any time, I'll start the story now. On a quiet night, when the sky was covered with a mysterious dark hue, the Scott family slept in their cozy, tiny home. Julia, the devoted mother of Emma, was still awake, carefully preparing breakfast for the next day in the kitchen. The faint yellow light reflected on the walls, with only the crackling sound of the old oven filling the air, setting the tone for a peaceful atmosphere. Everything from the comfortable armchairs to the pictures hanging on the walls blended in the calmness of a relaxing evening. But outside in the darkness, something unusual was happening. Bruno, the loyal German shepherd, sensed a change in the air. His head lifted, high nostrils flaring, and his sharp eyes glistened with an unusual light. The dog couldn't speak, but he knew that danger was approaching his family. The first sound came gently, like a leaf falling on the ground. Bruno furrowed his brow, ears perked up. Then his gaze turned toward the window. In the darkness, a shadowy figure was moving close to the house. The intruder had no good intentions, taking careful steps, as if afraid of disturbing someone. Bruno stared intently, not taking his eyes off the shadow. The stranger's scent hit his nose, an indescribable feeling rising, making the dog even more tense. Suddenly the gate's creak echoed in the night's stillness. That slight sound seemed to awaken all of Bruno's senses. The intruder had opened the gate. The house was utterly silent, with only Emma's steady breathing in the bedroom. Julia was still busy in the kitchen, unaware of what was happening outside. The whole house was still, but Bruno couldn't stand idly by. He began to bark loudly, the barks acting as a warning. Before anyone could understand what was happening, the intruder had almost stepped onto the front porch. Bruno kept barking, each bark marking the danger, but Julia couldn't hear it over the noise in the kitchen. Everything became tense and danger was drawing near. Bruno couldn't just stand still. He realized something significant. The family was in danger, and he was the only one to protect them. The light inside the house dimmed, and the darkness in the garden stretched out like a strange shadow. In that moment, something unexpected would happen. Something none of the Scott family could have foreseen. Bruno was a strong, intelligent, and fearless German shepherd. With sharp eyes and a muscular body, Bruno was not just a dog. He was like a silent soldier, always standing guard, protecting the Scott family for all these years. Despite his fierce appearance, the dog had a warm heart, especially with the family. Bruno wasn't just a pet, but a loyal friend, always there when the family needed protection. This dog is loyal to his owner, especially to Emma, the young daughter of the Scott family. Every morning when the dawn breaks, Bruno wakes up early, waiting by the window, ready to walk around the garden with the whole family. The dog never shows impatience or irritation, but always remains patient and calm, following every step of Emma. Though just a dog, Bruno understands that his role isn't just to protect and be a friend and loyal companion in every life journey. The bond between Bruno and Emma cannot be expressed in words. Every day, Bruno protects Emma not only with strength, but also with affection. When Emma joyfully plays in the garden during the hot summer days, Bruno lies beside her, watching every step she takes. Although no words are spoken, whenever Emma feels uneasy, Bruno is always there, lying beside her, sometimes simply resting his warm head on her lap, as if to say, "Everything will be okay. I'll protect you." Bruno, the German shepherd, never shows impatience or anxiety, but whenever Emma encounters difficulties, whether a minor fall or a fear of something, Bruno always appears with absolute caution. He stood still, watching the surroundings, never taking his eyes off her for a second. For Bruno, protecting the family isn't just a task. It's a sacred duty that the dog is always ready to carry out without needing to be reminded. The friendship between Bruno and Emma is one of deep affection and loyalty. Over the days and months, their friendship has only deepened. Bruno is not just a companion, but also Emma's invisible protector, always by her side when she needs him most. During moments when Emma feels tired or faces difficulties with her studies, the dog is always quietly beside her, helping her overcome sadness and making her think that she is no longer alone in this vast world. Bruno is not just a dog for the Scott family, but an irreplaceable part of their lives. The story of Bruno and the family is about protection, loyalty, sacrifice, and the unconditional love that the dog gives to those he loves. Every step Emma takes, every moment of the Scott family. Bruno is always the companion, always there, protecting, loving, and never giving up. Bruno is an essential part of the Scott family in moments of joy and times of trial. His presence brings a sense of security, helping the Scott family feel the unspoken protection, an invisible but strong safeguard. This dog embodies unconditional love and the friend anyone would want to have by their side in life. The night enveloped the Scott house, but the atmosphere became suffocating, full of tension. While Julia busied herself in the kitchen preparing a late-night meal for herself, the barking of Bruno broke the silence of the house. At first, Julia thought it was a normal bark, as the dog was always alert to strange figures outside the window. But she started to feel uneasy when the barking grew louder and more intense, as if something was truly wrong. Julia stepped closer to the window with sweaty palms looking out into the garden. But in the darkness, there was only the quiet stillness of the night. However, Bruno's barking still echoed in the air, making Julia increasingly uneasy. Her footsteps faltered, but Julia couldn't understand why Bruno was barking like this. Something unusual was happening. Feeling anxious, Julia returned to the kitchen and locked the doors, preparing for something hurriedly. Meanwhile, the intruder, a man dressed in black with his face covered, had moved closer to the back door. He seemed unconcerned by Bruno's presence and continued his approach. Each step he took brought him closer to the house, unbeknownst to anyone inside. He held a metal rod in his hand, its cold reflection adding to the already heavy, threatening atmosphere. His heavy footsteps crept across the doorstep, making a slight noise like the rustle of a predator approaching its prey. Bruno didn't stop barking, his body tense, standing like a warrior protecting his family. But his barking wasn't loud enough for Julia to hear from the kitchen. She could only sense the discomfort in the air, a feeling that something dangerous was approaching. Julia became increasingly anxious. Is someone breaking in? She wondered, her heart pounding. She didn't know that while she rushed around the house, checking the locks, everything was still tranquil in Emma's room. Emma remained asleep, unaware of the danger approaching. And Bruno, her dog, wasn't missing a single step of the intruder's approach. As the intruder drew closer to Emma's room, Bruno immediately recognized the threat. Not only was he a protector, but this German shepherd had become a courageous warrior. His eyes gleamed like precious gems, full of resolve. He wasn't just barking a warning. He was ready to act. On that night, Bruno's courage never faltered. He stood firm at the door of Emma's room without hesitation. A powerful, resolute bark rang out like a challenge. The intruder didn't expect a dog with such immense strength like Bruno to be such a formidable opponent. He froze, staring into the glowing eyes of Bruno, unsure of what to do next. At that moment, the determination in the dog's gaze spoke volumes. "I will protect this little girl no matter the cost." Bruno didn't back down, even though he may have known the intruder was a strong stranger. But his love and loyalty for Emma transformed him into an unyielding warrior. The intruder took a step back, unsure of what to do next. The faint light from the hallway lamp illuminated them, and in that instant, Bruno was no longer just a dog. He was a symbol of strength, protection, and absolute loyalty. The brave German shepherd didn't retreat. At that moment, all Bruno needed to do was one final act to protect the family. And he was ready to sacrifice everything to ensure that Emma wouldn't face this dangerous intruder. The entire atmosphere in the Scott household seemed to freeze as Bruno barked louder than ever before. His bark echoed like a clear warning, each sound carrying the determination to protect the family. The intruder stood still, his gaze bewildered, staring at Bruno as if he couldn't believe what he was facing. At that moment, a strange fear rose within him, but fear couldn't stop him from carrying out what he had planned. He stared at Bruno, gripping the metal rod in his hand. However, just as he was about to step forward, a noise came from the back door. The door suddenly swung open, and Julia, finally realizing something was wrong, looked frantically for Bruno. Everything in her mind seemed to shatter when she saw the scene before her. "No!" She screamed, but her cry was cut off by Bruno's bark, echoing strong and resolute like a final warning. The intruder stepped back in shock. Bruno's gaze had changed. It was now the look of a warrior, a protector who couldn't be broken. The barking didn't stop, but at that moment something unexpected happened. Julia, with the instinctive feeling of a mother, did something unthinkable. While Julia was panicking, unsure of what to do, she hurriedly reached out and accidentally knocked the lamp by the window to the floor. The slight noise again stirred the air, making the intruder flinch and turn back, but instead of fleeing, he inexplicably froze in place. His eyes drawn to the light of the broken lamp, the distraction making him lose his focus. He looked at Bruno, his previously determined gaze filled with doubt and uncertainty. In that brief moment, the intruder realized that facing this German Shepherd wasn't a wise choice. Suddenly, he stepped back as if making a decision. The tension, the sounds of suspense in the air, abruptly ceased. Bruno, with his endless patience and vigilance, did not back down. His bright eyes remained fixed on the intruder. One wrong move, and Bruno would not hesitate to charge to protect his family. The intruder looked around, but there were no options left. The feeling of weakness and the danger of the situation made him no longer willing to continue. He stood there momentarily, as if contemplating, then turned and fled into the darkness of the night. Still unable to fully grasp what had just happened, Julia stood frozen. She looked at Bruno, and gratitude welled up in her heart. The German Shepherd had protected her family and Emma from an unforeseen danger. Bruno's courage and loyalty were not just physical protection, but also a shield for their spirits, something words could never fully describe. When the police and security personnel arrived, no one understood what had happened. The intruder had fled without an explanation. Bruno stood still, wagging his tail lightly, his eyes still focused on Emma's bedroom door. No words were spoken, but the Scott family understood Bruno had saved them. The bravery of this dog would not only be remembered by the family, but would be a story that the entire neighborhood would recount for years to come. After the tense night and the unexpected rescue, life for the Scott family gradually returned to normal. But what was surprising and wonderful was that after the event, Bruno's name was remembered by the Scott family and became well known throughout the neighborhood. The story of the loyalty and sacrifice of the German Shepherd deeply moved everyone and left them in awe. As soon as the intruder was caught and all danger was averted, the Scott family did not hesitate to share the story of Bruno. The neighborhood buzzed when they heard that Bruno had saved the family from a dangerous intruder. The dog's story sparked admiration and made people reflect on the loyalty and unconditional sacrifice that animals are capable of. Bruno saved the Scott family and made the neighborhood reconsider the relationship between humans and animals. They realized that dogs are not only loyal companions, but also silent heroes, warriors who protect their families and communities without hesitation or second thoughts. The next day, when Julia and Emma took Bruno for a walk around the neighborhood, the residents approached and petted the dog. Thanking it for its courage, Bruno accepted the affection with gentle eyes and a warm tail wag. But to Julia, Emma, and Henry, Bruno was not just a pet. He was part of the family, cherished and loved. The story of Bruno spread quickly, and not long after, a small ceremony was held in the neighborhood to honor the dog. They presented Bruno with a small golden medal inscribed Neighborhood Hero, Loyalty and Sacrifice. During the ceremony, Mrs. Maria, a neighbor, stood up and shared, "Bruno didn't just save the Scott family, he has taught us a valuable lesson about loyalty and the unconditional love animals can offer humans." The crowd applauded, and Julia could not hide her emotions. She hugged Bruno tightly, her eyes filled with tears. Every smile and thank you from the neighbors, from strangers, was a testament to the boundless love that Bruno had brought to everyone. From that day on, Bruno was not only the protector of the Scott family, but also a symbol of loyalty, sacrifice, and the deep bond of friendship between humans and animals. The Scott family knew they would never be alone, because for them, Bruno had become the friend, the hero, and the indispensable companion in their lives. When the family walked together around the neighborhood each morning, Bruno was no longer just a dog, but a cherished friend, honored, loved, and respected. It was a connection that nothing could tear apart. And deep in the hearts of the Scott family, they knew that no matter what, Bruno would always be an irreplaceable part of their life's journey, a reminder that love and loyalty can change a whole community. Day by day, the bond between Bruno and the Scott family deepened. Julia noticed the change in Emma's eyes when the little girl approached the dog. The connection that couldn't be expressed in words, Emma no longer felt fear or anxiety. Bruno was always beside her. But this bond was not just about protection, but also about unconditional sacrifice. Bruno didn't just live in this house. He was a part of the Scott family, and the friendship between the dog and Emma was filled with love and invaluable protection. The story of Bruno isn't just an ordinary rescue tale. It is a living testament to an incredibly valuable lesson that not everyone may immediately recognize: loyalty and unconditional sacrifice. This German Shepherd, from being a loyal companion in the Scott family, has become a symbol of everything good that animals can offer to humans: protection, love, and boundless loyalty. The Scott family and the whole neighborhood learn about sacrifice through Bruno's story. Bruno, though just an animal, never hesitated to do anything to protect his family, even at the risk of facing danger. His courage was not only measured by his physical strength, but also by his unwavering determination, patience, and a love that could not be replaced. Despite all the community's emotions, Julia realized that loyalty is not easily earned. It's not just about empty promises, but continuous actions and small gestures with significant meaning. Bruno taught her and her family an invaluable lesson about never giving up on the ones you love, no matter how difficult the circumstances may be. What Bruno did wasn't just to save the Scott family from an almost unpredictable danger. It was also an emotional sacrifice. Bruno had to sacrifice his safety, standing at the threshold between life and death, just to protect little Emma and his loved ones. But that didn't make him feel tired or regretful. On the contrary, Bruno lived with the simplest joy of protecting his family, never asking for anything other than the Scott family's unconditional love. After the honor ceremony, Bruno became a source of pride for the Scott family and the entire neighborhood. Neighbors who had never known this dog before now viewed Bruno as a hero, as part of their own family. They realized you don't have to be human to be a hero. A dog with loyalty, resilience, and boundless love can make a tremendous difference. Bruno's story spread beyond that small neighborhood, animal protection organizations, humanitarian groups, and everyone were amazed by the loyalty and bravery of an animal. This story moved people and prompted them to rethink the value of animals in human life. and how they can change our lives in ways we could never have imagined. Ultimately, the Scott family felt grateful to Bruno for saving their lives and knew this dog had taught them a great lesson. Sacrifice isn't just a physical act, but a soul ready to give everything for the ones you love. They knew that in this world, sacrifice is never meaningless. And no matter how time passes, Bruno's love will always live on in their hearts. From then on, Bruno was not just a dog in the Scott family, but a symbol of loyalty and sacrifice. A reminder that love knows no boundaries and that loyalty is an invaluable value that all living beings, whether human or animal, can offer one another.